Many believe that the age of death is simply a matter of luck, genetics, or fate, but the truth might be much more unsettling than it seems. According to Dolores Cannon, how long a soul stays on Earth doesn't depend only on the body, but on what it does with its consciousness. There's a silent pattern that especially affects older folks, a blind spot where many lives end around the age of 79. It's not some mystical prophecy or a curse. It's a direct result of something most people don't even realize they're doing. And that something has to do with mental and emotional habits that build up over a lifetime. The scariest part is that many people live just long enough to repeat the same cycle, and because they lack awareness, they leave this life without finishing what they came here to learn. Understanding this isn't about fear, it's about responsibility. The age of the soul, according to Dolores, carries more weight than the age of the body. And when the cycle is ignored, the clock of existence speeds up. At 79, the body is often still capable. The mind might be clear, the heart still beats strong. But there's something unseen that takes over. Dolores Cannon reported in her studies that many seniors die in that age range because their purpose has either been used up or ignored. It's not a punishment, but a kind of natural shutting down when their personal mission is abandoned. The good news is that this can be avoided. The simple act of waking up to why you're here can change that cycle. And if you're watching this video now, it's because there's something in you that wants to understand more. So please give it a like and subscribe, because in the next few minutes we're going to reveal the factors that quietly shorten the lives of many and what you can do today to change that fate. The decision to live longer can begin with the courage to hear something that few are willing to face. Dolores Cannon conducted hundreds of hypnotic regressions where her patients reported patterns that repeated in different lifetimes. In many cases, people would return to Earth, live to be around 79 years old, and then leave without completing their cycles. She started to notice that there was a breaking point during that period, as if the soul was programmed to stop its journey if there was no real progress. But what does it mean to progress? According to the reports, it's not about accumulating wealth or titles. It's about learning, forgiving, contributing, and growing on the inside. When that doesn't happen, the life cycle tends to repeat or end. The most surprising thing was noticing that the symptoms of this burnout start years earlier, with discouragement, a stagnant routine, and a quiet feeling that you've already experienced everything there is to experience. It's right there that many give up without realizing it. The abandonment of dreams, the absence of curiosity, and the feeling that nothing more can be learned create a kind of premature death. Dolores pointed out that accelerated aging isn't just in the body, but in the soul that no longer moves. When a person stops asking what more they can learn, teach, or transform, they begin to disconnect from the purpose that keeps them alive. And that disconnect has clear effects. Illnesses worsen, relationships cool down, memories fade. The soul, according to Dolores, starts retreating. And when there's no more internal movement, the vital energy also withdraws. There's no need to be afraid of that. On the contrary, it's a chance for change. At any moment, even at an advanced age, it's possible to reconnect with what gives meaning to life. But to do that, you have to be willing to get out of autopilot. Most older people who reach 79 with health and clear minds, but who soon after suddenly became ill, shared the same trait. They had lost their sense of usefulness. Dolores recorded this with astonishment. It was as if, upon seeing themselves as a burden or as someone who no longer has a function, these people gave up their own survival. The mind begins to accept the idea of an end, and the soul, in turn, understands that signal as permission to disconnect. But it's not inevitable. People who maintain connections, who feel part of something, who have goals, projects, or even simple daily joys, tend to live well beyond 79. The difference is in the presence of a purpose. It doesn't have to be grand. It could be caring for a grandchild, a passion for a hobby, the desire to learn something new. What matters is keeping the soul awake. There's also another crucial factor observed by Dolores: emotional silence. Many seniors don't die from illnesses, but from bottled up hurts. Feelings never spoken, forgiveness not given, guilt accumulated like stones in the chest. According to reports obtained during regressions, these emotions not only make the body sick, but deactivate the vital energy that keeps the spirit connected to the physical plane. Dolores warned that whoever doesn't express what they feel slowly begins to lose the desire to be here. And when that happens, the body obeys. The good news is that it's never too late to change that path. There's always a chance to clear emotional baggage and free the soul. And that process can begin with something as simple as talking to someone you trust, writing down what you feel, asking for forgiveness, or offering understanding to yourself. Many older people told Dolores that at a certain point in their lives, they started to feel as if they were just waiting for the end. That feeling didn't come from physical pain, but from a lack of meaning. Time passed, the days repeated, and the feeling of being surplus took over. Dolores interpreted that as a clear sign that the soul was no longer finding expression. When there's no longer a desire to create, contribute, or feel, the spirit begins to withdraw. It's like a plant that stops receiving light. Little by little, even with medical care, the person withers away. But that trend can be reversed. Just light a spark of interest in something. A new habit, a meaningful conversation, a discovery. The secret, according to Dolores, isn't in the number of years, but in the quality of presence in each day lived. Living with purpose is what extends the timeline of the soul. She said there are two kinds of old age, the one that waits and the one that lives. The first is passive, marked by repetitions and complaints. The second is active, curious, with a thirst for experiences. Dolores Cannon saw a surprising pattern in her patients. Those who kept an open mind to new possibilities, resisted diseases more, had more vigor, and went through 79 with ease. Even in wheelchairs, some seemed more alive than many young people. That happened because their soul continued to move, and it's that movement that feeds the body. It's not just a matter of faith, but of spiritual biology, as she called it. When there's enthusiasm, there's production of vital energy. When there's apathy, that energy runs out. Many believe that stopping work is the beginning of rest, but in reality, it can be the beginning of disengagement if it isn't replaced by other forms of meaningful involvement with life. Another point addressed by Dolores was the importance of human connections. Loneliness, according to her, is one of the silent causes of premature death. Isolated people tend to lose their sense of identity. The lack of conversations, affection, and daily exchanges weakens not only the emotional state, but also the energetic field of the individual. In her sessions, many seniors revealed that they started to get sick when their bonds broke. Friends who passed away, distant children, indifferent neighbors. The absence of belonging created a deep emptiness. But the bond can be rebuilt. A phone call, an invitation, a gesture of attention can reverse years of silence. And most importantly, you don't have to wait for the other person to take the initiative. Dolores insisted that the act of opening up, looking for, and allowing yourself to be seen is a choice that can restore the soul's joy of continuing here. Dolores also talked a lot about the weight of regret. Many older people, as they approach old age, carry unresolved emotional burdens. Poor decisions, harsh words, delayed choices. These elements, when not processed, create a kind of energetic block that prevents the soul from expanding. According to her reports, regret without resolution is like a knot that tightens the chest and prevents the soul from breathing. But there's a way out. Facing these feelings, understanding that the past can't be changed, but that the present is a powerful tool for transformation. Forgiveness, both to others and to yourself, is one of the greatest remedies for spiritual longevity. When the soul is relieved of these weights, it becomes lighter, and the body responds to that. Dolores always remembered that it's not about erasing what was done, but about learning from it and moving forward. There's a curious detail that few notice. Many seniors stop making plans. They stop imagining the future as if there isn't enough time for something new. Dolores saw that as one of the biggest mistakes. The human brain, when stimulated by projects, stays active. And the soul, when it realizes that there's still something to come, is renewed. Even a simple plan, such as learning to play an instrument, writing memories, or organizing a small garden, is enough to break the cycle of stagnation. She said that as long as there's a why, there will be a how, and that why can be reinvented at 60, 70, or 90 years old. The problem is that many convince themselves that they've already lived everything, when in reality they've just stopped looking. The soul ages when the gaze closes to the possibilities, and life is prolonged when a new window of curiosity opens. Dolores Cannon also talked about the fear of death, but not the natural fear of leaving life, but the paralyzing fear that prevents people from living fully. Many seniors, out of fear of the end, start to avoid anything that refers to change, risk, or challenge. That behavior creates a state of internal paralysis. The soul settles, the body follows, but the spirit no longer vibrates. The fear of dying prevents living, and that, paradoxically, brings the end even closer. Dolores said that facing that fear begins with acceptance. Knowing that death will come one day shouldn't be a burden, but a reminder that each day is valuable. When the person accepts that reality, they are freed to live with more presence, intensity, and lightness. The secret isn't to deny the end, but to choose to live until the last second with wholeness and meaning. Through decades of research, Dolores Cannon realized that most people don't understand that the soul has an internal clock different from the human one. She explained that often, an older person dies not because the body has failed, but because the soul no longer finds meaning in staying. When that decision is made unconsciously, through apathy, emotional fatigue, or the absence of purpose, the body simply follows along. It's as if there's a silent agreement between the spirit and the matter. Dolores saw this as a precious chance. If the soul is capable of deciding to leave, it's also capable of deciding to stay, as long as it finds true reasons to do so. Every small gesture of involvement with life is an affirmation of that choice. And when the person gets interested again, wanting to learn or teach, they send their own soul a clear signal that there are still reasons to continue despite their age. She emphasized that it's never too late to rewrite your own story. Many seniors believe that everything they had to live has already passed, as if the past were the only relevant part of life. Dolores firmly opposed this idea. According to her, it's possible to transform the last years into extraordinary chapters, full of meaning and impact. There are many cases of people who discovered new passions at 80, who became role models at 85, or who found love again at 90. The difference is in not surrendering to the social narrative that growing old is diminishing. For Dolores, aging wisely is expanding the view of existence, and that requires action. Reorganizing the routine, seeking new learning, cultivating relationships, and allowing yourself to live new experiences. Life responds to willingness, and when that willingness is genuine, time extends beyond the forecast of calendars. In the accounts she received, one pattern stood out. Seniors who kept gratitude present in their speech lived longer. Dolores began to investigate this and realized that gratitude has the power to reconfigure the energetic field. People who daily thanked for small things maintained a high frequency, even amidst pain or limitations. That frequency, according to her, strengthened the soul's connection to the body. The opposite was also visible. Constant complaints, victimhood, and frequent whining created a density that accelerated burnout. What is spoken, what is thought, what is felt, all of that feeds or weakens the soul. Dolores didn't say this as a form of blame, but of responsibility. Everyone has the power to cultivate their own energy, and gratitude, being simple, sincere, and constant, is one of the most effective tools to renew the connection with life. Dolores also drew attention to the importance of recognizing that life has cycles, and that in each cycle there are specific opportunities. Many seniors are saddened by not being able to do what they used to do. They feel useless for not being able to keep up with the pace of the past. But the truth, according to her, is that each phase has a unique value. At 20, there's strength. At 40, practical wisdom. At 70, there's a broad view of existence. There's no need to compete with what has already been. It's necessary to welcome what is now. When the person honors their current phase, they extract from it what is richest. Dolores saw the final years as a harvest, a moment when the soul can integrate everything it has learned, teach others, and prepare with lightness for the next stage, without rushing. And it's precisely that awareness that prolongs the presence here, living the now with acceptance and surrender. Another recurring point in her sessions was resistance to change. Many seniors avoided any changes in routine, ideas, or bonds. Dolores saw this as a defense mechanism, but also as a dangerous obstacle. When the mind closes, the spirit withdraws. And when the spirit doesn't expand, life loses color. She advised her patients to make small movements, change the route of the walk, listen to new music, talk to someone different. These simple gestures activate areas of the brain and heart that were dormant, and that awakening creates vitality. Rigidity, on the other hand, hardens not only thoughts, but the body. Dolores believed that flexibility was an indicator of spiritual youth, and that has nothing to do with age, but with willingness. The young soul is the one that, even in an aged body, remains open to discovery. In her last years, Dolores Cannon left a clear message. Aging isn't a process of loss, but of transition. The way you face that transition is what determines the duration and quality of life. She said that people don't die because they got old. They die, often, because they stopped feeling alive. This isn't an immutable fate. It's an invitation to action. Each day can be a restart, each gesture of care a way of affirming to life that there is still a will. The age of 79 doesn't have to be a final point. It can just be a comma, a new chapter. But that choice begins within, with the intimate decision to stay, to care, to allow yourself. The time that remains is invisible, but it can be immensely valuable if it's lived with awareness. And it's that awareness that prolongs the soul's journey on earth. For Dolores Cannon, there's no age limit for transformation. She witnessed countless accounts of seniors who, upon understanding the reasons that kept them stuck in discouragement, woke up to a new phase of life. In her words, the body follows the mind, and the mind follows the spirit. When the spirit realigns with its purpose, everything begins to change. Breathing gains lightness, the look is renewed, health improves. Even chronic diseases can stabilize when the soul regains command of existence. It's not about miracles, but about reconnection. The problem is that many think it's too late, and that belief, repeated day after day, turns into a sentence. Dolores insisted that there's no wrong time to start over. At 80, at 90, there's always a possibility of meeting yourself again. But that reunion requires courage, the courage to look inward, review priorities, and take a new step towards your own essence. This reconnection doesn't require grand gestures. Often it starts with silence. Dolores recommended daily moments of introspection where the senior could simply listen to what their soul wanted to say. In a noisy world, that habit becomes a portal to self-knowledge. Sit in silence, close your eyes, take a deep breath and ask, what do I still want to experience? That simple question can open surprising paths, because inside each person there's a spark that never ages. And when that spark is heard, the fire of life reignites. Many seniors discovered in that process old desires that had been forgotten. A desire to paint, write, speak in public, learn something new. Dolores said that the soul has memory, and that the reunion with these forgotten desires is a sign that there's still a road ahead. Just trust in that inner listening to discover new possibilities. Listening, however, must be accompanied by action. Dolores reminded that it's not enough to want something. It's necessary to move towards it even slowly. The simple act of planning, of taking the first step, already puts the soul in motion, and a soul in motion attracts life. Seniors who resumed hobbies, who got involved with groups, who sought new forms of expression, invariably reported more energy, more health, and more meaning. The will to live is a natural remedy, and it's born of action. Waiting for motivation to appear can be useless if the person doesn't put themselves in motion. Dolores believed that each gesture, no matter how small, is an affirmation of presence, and the more the person affirms their presence in the world, the more reasons they find to remain in it. Life responds to action, and even small steps have the power to completely transform the course of an existence. At the end of her life, Dolores Cannon said that humanity's biggest mistake was living automatically. Aging, for her, wasn't a problem. The problem was aging without awareness. without realizing the value of the days, of the people, of the small joys. She encouraged mindfulness, human contact, and the search for meaning. Many of those who went through her sessions reported a profound change just by starting to observe more. Looking at the sky, listening to someone with presence, savoring a meal calmly. That awareness of the present moment strengthens the soul, because it understands that there's still life to be lived, even if it's in silence. The body may tire, the hair may turn white, but the soul only ages when it stops perceiving the value of now. Dolores saw this as a key to surpassing 79 years with dignity, lightness, and renewed purpose. She never promised magic formulas. On the contrary, she was always direct in saying that living requires daily choices, and that these choices begin in thought. How do you see yourself? How do you talk to yourself? What do you still believe is possible? It's these questions that determine the future of the soul. Dolores believed that thought shapes reality more powerfully than any medicine, and that the senior who decides to cultivate thoughts of renewal, affection, and purpose is charting a new destiny. It may seem too simple, but it's exactly that simplicity that is frightening, knowing that we have more control over our lives than we imagine, and that control isn't in others, nor in circumstances, but within each one. The soul wants to live, it just needs to be heard and respected, and that begins with a choice to live with presence, with intention, and with truth. If this video made you reflect, then maybe it's time to look more kindly at the time you still have. It doesn't matter your age. What matters is what you decide to do with the days that remain. You can continue repeating the same pattern, or you can choose something new, lighter, and more meaningful. And if this content touched something inside, consider sharing it with someone you love. Perhaps that person also needs this reminder. And if you want to receive more reflections like this, subscribe to the channel. Together, we can build a space of awareness where age isn't an end, but a new chance. Because as long as there's a breath, there's time. And as long as there's time, there's life. And where there's life, there's always something precious to live.